Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everybody, this is Perrin with Niche Site Project 3.0, and we are delivering coaching call number 6. And you guys would not believe the technical hullabaloo that we have been through to get here tonight. It's really been pretty insane.
It's been our worst one yet.
Yeah, and this has been a kind of a theme for our project. Site's gone really well. Skype calls have just been, we probably spent more time working on the technical side of our Skype calls than probably the actual site, I would say. Real close anyway.
Yeah, I would agree.
And we both have had like an insane work day too. So we are really fighting to even stay awake. I hope you guys appreciate it, but there's nothing we would rather be doing except maybe sleeping. But we're here, right?
Oh, yes. We are here.
So today we're going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, something I also argue about with readers all the time, and something around which there are a lot of misconceptions, a little bit of mystery, and also a lot of anxiety. And that, of course, is link building. So this is something that causes a divide between a lot of different people. There are lots of shady tactics out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And so we're going to spend some time today building a business case for link building, talking about why you should do it, and also sort of debunking some of the myths around link building. And then after that, we'll talk about what we can actually plan to do over the next couple of weeks, because that's going to be the fun part. That's going to be the exciting part, is sitting down and actually building a couple of links, probably more than a couple, but we can probably go ahead and get started. Before that, why don't you give us an update, Colleen, for where your site is, how it's going, and how the content is coming, because last we checked, or last call, where were we?
Last call, I had maybe about 20 of my 40 articles done, and now I'm quickly approaching the finish line and ready to be done with that assignment, that round of articles. So that is in the near future. I kind of got off track a little bit just because work has been really crazy, but it's going to happen really soon. Another thing that I've been working on is fixing some of my photos that we talked about last time, and also doing on-site SEO and adding some keywords.
Yeah, how did the on-page SEO go? Because that was the subject of the next call, and I haven't even talked to you about it since then. So I can assume that it either went really well or so bad that you don't want to talk about it.
No, I think it went really well. I actually kind of have some ideas on how to rearrange some of my content. So I think that was a good call to have, and also good ideas to make my site better.
Cool, but it went smoothly, and you think you got it all optimized and ready to go?
Yep, and it's filling out, and it feels really awesome that I feel like I actually have a site that looks together and professional. It's really exciting.
Yeah, totally. Does it feel more real now?
Yes, I'm like a proud parent of a brand new baby website.
Yeah, and I think you've done a good job. What's on the docket for the next week or so as you start to wrap up content and work towards that finish line? Are you going to be doing some writing, or is it mostly just posting stuff that you've outsourced, or what is on the actual schedule for you?
So basically the keywords that I thought were going to be the hardest I've put off. So those keywords are the ones that I have to focus on. So it's kind of going to be a long stretch, I think, because I put those tricky ones off, but got to do it, got to put my head down and see the finish line, if you will.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be kind of the end of the content. It's always a little bit of a slog when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you still have a whole bunch of stuff in the chamber to do. But after that, you can maybe take a little bit of time off for a few days at least, and then jump into some link building, which I find pretty fun, and I hope you find fun as well.
Yeah, I've also, before we get fully into link building, one of the things that I did is for my topic, I got my hands on said topic and was able to take some pictures with it so I could get some original content, and also been working on some of my own infographics. So that's been exciting too.
Cool. Have you been building the infographics in like a design software?
Yeah, I've been using Canva, which is the biggest time suck of your life, but it's amazing.
Yeah, totally. It's a super good program. If anybody hasn't used it, it's canva.com. It's like a free design tool that lets noobs like me and Colleen design some really cool stuff. I use it all the time. I use it mostly for featured images, but you can use it for stuff like infographics or PowerPoint presentations or Facebook ad images and all kinds of different stuff. So super cool. I've seen some of the images. The blog looks really good. I actually think it looks way better than, say, a Penny Shave did at this point. So I think Colleen is doing a super good job, and we're just about ready to launch into the marketing part. So before we really start talking about links, why don't you give us a quick rundown of where you are with link building, how much you know, how much experience you have, so we know at which point we need to jump off.
Right. So I am basically a complete noob. I have one link under my belt, and that's from my cat website. I wrote an article about catios, which are outdoor cat patios, and contacted the company that I told them I wrote this awesome article about them, and they did a little feature of my website on their
page. Yep. So
page.
just to be clear, the cat website is not the site for Niche Site Project 3. This is a site you had before.
No, that is my own separate site.
Your own separate site, yeah. But you've gotten one, and that's actually a lot more than a lot of people have gotten. I know when I started, even after I started quote-unquote building links using PBNs, I really hadn't done any actual SEO link building. So you may have done more than a lot of people, but still, there's probably a lot to learn, right?
Oh, yes. I have tons to learn.
And that's what we're here for. So the first thing I want to cover is whether or not we really need links, because I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions in the community, and it's the discussion that comes up over and over again, especially with Niche Pursuits readers, and especially after we had a podcast with Claire Smith. If you don't remember, you can search for the podcast with Claire Smith on nichepursuits.com, and it's a really cool podcast. She's a really great lady. And her story, basically, and I'm summarizing greatly here, is that she builds websites very much in the same style we are building. She monetizes with Amazon. She makes a healthy 5 figures a month, and she doesn't build any links at all. She sort of preaches keyword research only, and she makes a really great living doing that. And I haven't talked to her in a while, but as far as I know, she still does. And that's one of the most popular podcasts on Niche Pursuits of all time. I think it may even be one of the most popular posts overall of all time, because people are really attracted to the idea of not having to build links. And there's people out there like Claire Smith who don't build any links at all and do really, really well. So all the time we get asked this question, or at least I do we really need links? And so that's the first thing I want to answer. In my view, yes, you absolutely do need links. They're very important. In Google's eyes, links equal votes. That has been the case since SEO started pretty much. And based on what we hear from Google engineers, that's not going to change anytime soon. We don't know what their algorithm does exactly. We do know that they have a development version of their algorithm where they can test different stuff to see what the results are on the actual search results. And we know from Google engineers that they have tested versions of their search algorithm that don't include links. And what we hear from them is that it just totally messes up the search results, and they're not nearly as high quality as they are with links being a part of the algorithm. So they've always been part of the algorithm, and despite spam, it's still one of the best ways Google can figure out to rank quality sites near the top for the most parts. There's not any sign that that's going to change anytime soon. Plus, Moz, the company who runs like Open Site Explorer and who is now the preeminent research firm for SEO, released in their 2015 study on ranking factors. So at the end of 2015, they released a study, and they found that links still matter greatly in how high you rank for keywords. I mean, we'll probably link to that in the blog post, but the basic point is links still matter, and we know from Google's own mouth, from the horse's mouth, that links aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And before Matt Cutts left, right? He said that links are still going to be important for the foreseeable future. So, yes, you need links. And that's always been my stance, but I think it's even more important nowadays. Now, some of you may be asking, based on what I just said, or maybe if you've heard people like Claire talk about their success, you might be asking, but I thought some people did fine without link building. And that's true, but it's only true sometimes, and in my experience, it's only true rarely. The more important point here is that it doesn't excuse you from building links. Even if there are some people having success with no link buildings or with no link building, it doesn't mean that you can afford not to build links with your specific site. So I want to talk about 4 or 5 reasons that links matter, especially for sites like mine and Colleens and yours if you're out there building a site too. So reason number 1 is that if everything else is equal, sites with more links will always do better than sites without links. So if there's site A and site B, they each have 20 articles, they're targeting similar or the same keywords, and site A has no links and site B has 100 links, site B will always have more traffic and will always have more revenue than site A. Another way to think about this is to imagine 2 versions of your site. So maybe you have a site at the beginning of your life. It has 20 articles, but it doesn't have any links. And you have a site at the end of a couple of months of link building, has 20 articles, but it has 50 links pointing to it. That version of your site will always get more traffic and will always get more revenue than the site without links. So it's a really important point, and I think it's worth mentioning because even though there are people having success without links, that doesn't mean that their sites are doing as best as they could be doing, right? So links always improve a site unless they're really bad links or if you're doing something wrong or if they're spam links. Of course, that stuff is true. But in general, links or sites with more links will always be doing better than sites without links. And that's true for your specific site. The more links you get, the better it's going to do.
So question for you, what is the best sweet spot for content? Like how our goal here is 40 articles, but how did you come up with that number? What's the right content to link building ratio before you get started link building?
Yeah, super good question. That's going to be a matter of opinion. And for us, we kind of covered that in, 2 calls ago, where we sort of decided that maybe 60 articles was overkill for us, and we wanted to try to get out into the market sooner, and we wanted to start networking sooner and doing promotions sooner. I tend to go half and half. So for my site, I spent 2 months writing articles until I had 60 or 70 articles, and then I spent 2 or 3 months building links until I had maybe 50 or 100 linking root domains. I think about 100 linking root domains is when I kind of sort of stopped and settled down. So for me, it was half and half. Of course, you have people like Claire who spend almost no time building links. And you have people on the other end of the spectrum like Chris Lee from rankxl.com. Chris Lee, when he starts a site, he'll put up 2 or 3 really great posts and start building links right away, even without a full site. And he has tons of success doing that, right? So it's kind of a gut feeling. I like my sites to look full, and I like to be able to stop content completely and focus on link building and sort of do stuff in batches that way. It's going to be different for every person. I just like to alternate. So I did content until I had a full looking site, and then I did a few months of link building. And then as soon as I saw that Google liked my site, I focused almost entirely on content until now, where, I have hundreds of articles. I haven't done any link building beyond those first couple of months, except for some light guest posting. And I should probably switch back soon and start doing some more link building again. So it's kind of a gut feeling and kind of a preference, but I think the best general answer is that you need sort of a balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So how come you haven't tried the strategy of putting content and doing link building at the same time? Just because you like to focus your mind on one thing, or something else?
Yeah, so I think it's dangerous to try to do them both at the same time. I think the more things you focus on, the less the worse you do them, probably. I'm also a strong driver personality. If you know what the personality types are, you know that drivers like to get things done. I have this strong instinct to get stuff done. So if I have this goal of 70 articles or 40 articles or whatever it is, I have this insatiable urge to reach the finish line, and I just hate doing other stuff until it's done. So I prefer to do one thing at a time. I think doing one thing at a time is more efficient. And, you certainly can do them both at once, especially if you are hiring people to do one of those things. But I think it's just a personal preference.
Okay, cool. Just curious.
Yeah, good question, though. So that's point number one. Sites with more links always do better than sites without links. Number two, content does not make up for links. So I think this is another misconception, that if you do good enough keyword research and you write good enough content, it'll make up for not having any links, and that is just 100% not true. Good keyword research is important. Good content is important. But a lot of things are also important. None of it will do as well for your site as having a bunch of really great links pointing to your site and helping you rank for keywords. It just doesn't happen. It is important, but links themselves are such an important part of the equation. You can't make it up with something like just good content, especially if you're counting on good content to attract natural links. That almost never happens on its own. A good example to help illustrate this might be to look at my site versus Chris Lee's site. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal the domain, but Chris Lee and myself have sites of a similar size. I think his site is around 400-ish articles, and my site is just over 300 articles. I've done 1 or 2 rounds of link building over the course of a couple months. I've built a couple hundred linking root domains. So I've done pretty well, if I can toot my own horn, for someone who doesn't know a lot about link building. Chris Lee, on the other hand, is an expert link builder. He is a preeminent link builder in my eyes, and he single-handedly built a site to a domain authority of 54, which is insane. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of links. Our sites are of a similar size. They're both in business-to-consumer markets. And my site gets about 100,000 visitors a month. Chris Lee's site gets almost 1 million visitors a month. And I think it's a really good illustration of just how powerful links are by looking at 2 sites of a similar size and a similar age. I think his might even be a little bit younger than mine, and to see just how big the difference in traffic is. So even if he's doing a little bit better keyword research, and I don't think he is, he sometimes doesn't even do keyword research. He just writes whatever topics come to mind. Or even if he has more content, and he doesn't really, he only has a few dozen more articles, a 10-fold increase in traffic should be a good argument for the importance, or at least the power, of links versus content anyway. So that's point number 2. Number 3.
That's a pretty good point.
Thank you. Hope so. Number 3 is that sites with lots of links are the ones that dominate the SERPs. This is mostly a case for sites that are going after more competitive terms. So it shouldn't be any secret that if you're going after home improvement or credit repair or gambling or insurance or anything in the education niche, that the sites that are dominating the SERPs are the ones that have lots and lots of links. It's just true, and it's also true that if you have more links, if you have higher authority, you are going to be more competitive. So it's a simple point, but it's mostly for those people who are going after slightly more competitive stuff. If you look at the sites that are doing the best in the SERPs overall, it's almost always the sites that have tons and tons of links. There's almost never a case where a site has very few links and they're routinely beating sites with a lot of links. And it's certainly not the case that they have more traffic overall. So that's the third point. And I think this might be the last point. Maybe not. I don't know. The fourth point is that you need at least a few links to get the ball rolling. So even if you are a person who subscribes to the idea that links are not important, or even if you hate link building and you don't want to do it much, and you want to let your content carry a little bit more of the weight, you should at least spend some time building a few links to get the ball rolling. And the difference, like 5 or 10 links compared to 0 links makes in the site is tremendous. I had a friend who was building a site in a really specific niche. He started before me, almost a year before me. I started building my site, and I started growing way faster than him. And he asked me one day, he's like, what's going on? How are you doing this much more traffic than me at this point? And I was like, man, you got to build some links. Just go build like 5 links and see what happens. So that's what he did. He went on, I think he did like 5 or 10 guest posts. So not many links at all. And he hasn't done hardly any link building since because he's such an incredibly busy person. I mean, it's hard to even get him on the phone. He's so busy. But he went and he built 5 or 10 links. And he went from like 100 visits a day to 40,000 visits a month. I mean, over 1,000 visits a day with just those 5 or 10 links. Now, his site's old, it has lots of articles, and he's done really great keyword research. But the point is, even a few links can start a snowball for your site. Obviously, more is better, but if you don't want to do link building, you should at least buckle down and get a handful of links to start to get the ball rolling. We saw this in the site that we built for the FBA product. We didn't do much link building for that at all. And we just went and got some good, easy guest posts using some of the strategies we're going to talk about in this coaching call. And that was enough. And that site gets plenty of traffic makes plenty of money. So if you don't want to do link building, you should at least prepare to get a couple of links. Does that make sense, Colleen?
Yes, it does. I feel like you have hit the ball home pretty hard on all of those points to do link building. So if anyone is listening and they still are skeptical, I would be surprised.
Getting fired up?
Yes, very.
Yeah, right. You want to go to bed? So do I.
Actually, no, I'm getting excited.
And, you know, it'll actually be pretty exciting when you start doing it. I think it's pretty fun. But so there's one more point here. Point number 5 is that links have indirect benefits as well. So there's the obvious stuff like referral traffic and that sort of thing, where like if somebody links to you, you can capture some of their audience and build a little bit of credibility in the industry or whatever. But the biggest benefit to me, or one of the biggest benefits of going out and executing a link building campaign, is the indirect benefit of building relationships. And that sounds like such a cheesy thing to say. It's like when people say just go network, like what does that even mean? It's kind of this nebulous, weird term, building relationships. But it really happens when you go build links because you're emailing back and forth with people and you just get to know them and you actually do make friends. And it's happened to me with my current site where I've emailed back and forth, got a link or wrote a guest post for somebody. They asked me for a favor and I gave it to them. And then because we were friends and we were in the same industry, it led to business opportunities. So one of the people I just reached out to randomly or just based on research is now my friend, and we are launching a product in our market because combined we have a lot of good marketing power. We have worked with each other before. We know and like each other, and we just think it's a good opportunity. So link building helps you move beyond the realm of the niche site where you are just sitting at home alone in front of your computer and it puts you out into your market in more of a business sense. And as you grow, especially as you have leverage, you have traffic, you have an audience, maybe you have an email list, making friends with link building, especially if you can trade stuff, has a lot of indirect benefits in a broader macro business sense. How am I doing?
Yeah. So do it.
So do it. All right. So hopefully you're not skeptical at this point. And I just wanted to say on this next slide that it's by far the biggest mistake I see in site building. I can't tell you how many hundreds of sites I've seen that have pretty good keyword research, pretty good content. They look decent, but they're not getting any traffic, or they're getting maybe 100 visits a day, which doesn't amount to a lot of revenue, especially if you're monetizing with AdSense or Amazon. And the mistake is always that people aren't building links. They just don't. And when you have a low authority site, it's tough to bring in traffic because there are many low authority sites out there and you're not making yourself competitive. So when I get emails from people saying, hey, yeah, and they're usually like stressed and kind of sad, and they're saying, hey, I built this site and I put all this work into it, but it's not getting any traffic. Can you please help me? Almost always when I go look at their link profile, it's just non-existent. So it's the number one mistake in niche site building. And I wanted to ask why that might be, because I think I've kind of nailed it. Or at this point, I have a strong sense for why people don't go build links, because that's true. Like there's this block after writing content and doing the next thing where people just don't go build links. And at risk of embarrassing him a little bit, I've had this conversation many times with my brother, where like he's got this amazing looking website with lots of great content, 60 or 70 articles. And, it's not yet bringing in any traffic, but it's got just loads and loads of potential. And almost weekly, I have to say, go build some links, man. Like you don't have to be stressed out about your site. You just have to go build the links. That's the next step. And all you have to do is go do it. So why don't people build links? First, it's hard. It's a new skill and it takes work and it takes hours, right? So link building can be a little bit of a grind and it's just a hard thing to do. It's also scary. There is a high risk of failure. Sometimes you can get mean emails and that sort of thing. Sometimes link building campaigns don't work. I've had plenty of link building campaigns where I just sent out 300 emails and I got no responses back. That can stink, right? It's not a great feeling. There's a higher risk of failure, and I think people don't like that. It's also time consuming, and it's time consuming in like a data entry kind of way, like a call center kind of way, where you're just plugging away, trying to send as many emails as you possibly can. And it's not a type of work people like. So it's time consuming in a really kind of stinky way sometimes. Sometimes it can be really fun. And lastly, it causes social anxiety. And I think this is the biggest reason. People don't like putting themselves out there and to risk being rejected, because it's almost like a courtship asking for a link, right? Like you have to propose a pitch to somebody or get them to like you, or give them something that you created and ask them if it's good enough for them to link to it on their site. And that can cause social anxiety. It's a scary thing from a failure or success standpoint, and also from a social standpoint. And I've had my share of emotional roller coasters when I was link building. So overall, it's not an easy thing for a lot of reasons, and that stops a lot of people from building links. So hopefully, after 25 minutes of talking about this, I've driven the point home of, even though it's hard, you need to build the links, that you should expect it to be hard if you haven't yet done it. So maybe we can talk about the actual tactical stuff. Do you have a question or comment? Pop in.
Oh, yeah, I have a comment.
Okay.
So it sounds like you're even comparing this to this courtship to trying to get a gallery, essentially.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, though, because I feel like I already kind of do a lot of this in my day-to-day project management job of writing emails and trying to get a rise out of people. So hopefully it's a little bit easier for me. just because I have to do that monotony on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, how do those skills overlap for you? I mean, that's one of the things we talked about when we were talking about whether you would be a good fit or not, like when we were going through the application process. But as we approach it and knowing a little bit more about link building, how do you think those skills overlap for you?
I'm actually super excited about it. I don't think it sounds that hard or scary. Plus, I feel like writing an email, like, I don't have social anxiety about it. Like, I would have more social anxiety if I called someone or had to meet them in person. But an email, no big deal.
Yeah, totally. And the funny thing is, people are nice 99% of the time. I think maybe in all of my campaigns, the worst email I got was saying, like, no thanks, don't email me again. Like, you know, probably someone who assumed I was a spammer or something. But most people are super nice about it. I mean, like, honestly, 99% of the people, even if they reject you or reject your proposal, will say, you know, like, no thanks, but super cool infographic or whatever it is. And then the people who do think your content is cool or who like you as a person, it gets super fun to talk to them about, you know, this hobby or something, because it's usually a passion for these people. So yeah, it can be super fun. And I'm glad your skills overlap. I think it'll be useful. Let's go to the next slide. We've kind of beaten it to death that this is going to be hard and that we have to do it. But the idea is that we're not here to coast. We want this to be passive business, but right now is the active part of the business. It's the part of the business where we really have to get after it. So we're going to do link building anyway. And we're going to do the crap out of it. We're going to just link build like there's no tomorrow. So our goal is pretty lofty. It's 100 linking root domains, or LRD. That means we want 100 different sites linking to Colleen's sites. If you've never done an outreach campaign on your own before, I can tell you right now that that is probably 3 or 4 months of work based on the free time that Colleen has and how many emails you have to send to get a response and that sort of thing. 100 linking root domains is quite a bit. I think my best month, I got lucky and I built, I think, maybe 50 linking root domains. I also had something go viral on Tumblr and it got quite a few linking root domains. But my best month was 50. So I think you can realistically expect like maybe 20 a month. So we're talking like 3 or 4 or more months. I actually debated setting our goal at 50, but I think links right now in the current SEO landscape are just more important than having lots of content, and you can always add content. It's easy. You've got a list of keywords. Hopefully you'll be making money. You can just outsource it later. So I think link building is the most important thing for us to do right now. So our goal...
Plus, it is a competition, right?
That's right. It is a competition. Shh.
So,
Don't tell Spencer. Don't tell Jake. Jake's probably the most competitive person out there or in this competition. He's a baseball player, so he's probably really wants to kick our butts. But yeah, 100 linking root domains I think is a goal that will get this site earning really good money the quickest. So let's talk about link building. It's called Link Building 101. We're not going to do all of link building. I want to just cover kind of what a good link is, what a bad link is, and then the one tactic we are going to use just to start. So we're going to use a few different tactics, but in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we're just going to focus on one. So first, I want to talk about examples of bad links. And some of these aren't necessarily bad in the sense that they're going to get you penalized, but they're just not worth it. Not worth the effort. They're not going to move the needle. And I was just having this discussion in a niche site group on Facebook. Some links aren't necessarily dangerous, but it's just not worth the hours you put in. So first type of bad link is like a PBN. You guys have heard me explain over and over again why PBNs are bad. They're highly dangerous. If you use a PBN, your site's not going to be around for very long at all. So don't use PBNs. They're also way more expensive, way more work, way more of a logistical headache than just building some white hat links. So PBNs are bad on pretty much every single front. The other type of bad link is automated link. That's a link built with something like GSA or SEO nuke. Anything that you can just click a button and send some software to, or I'm sorry, click a button on some software and see a bunch of links pop up, that's a bad link. Two other types of links that aren't necessarily dangerous but are certainly not worth the effort are forum links. And also you can lump into this like Q&A sites like Quora. Not super great links. They're not going to hurt you, but going out and finding a bunch of forums and dropping comments in those is just not going to do anything for your blog. It's better to focus on better types of links. And blog comments. Blog commenting has been around forever. Some people like to do that as their only strategy because it's so easy. It's just not worth it at all. And I have found that blog comments almost never really move the needle. So the general rule of thumb here is that bad links are easy links, or easy links are bad links. If you can find a link and it's super easy, or you can just throw somebody $25 and you get a link, just assume it's bad. And of course, I didn't say this in here, but like Fiverr and that sort of thing, bad links. So if a link seems too easy, too good to be true, it almost always is. So does that make sense? Do you know what I mean when I say those types of links, Colleen?
Yep. So no sketchy links.
No sketchy links. And in general, no easy links, right? So what's a good link / link building tactic? Stuff like guest posts are really good. Links and resources pages. So some sites will have a page dedicated to linking out to people they like or resources that they think are valuable for their audience. Those are great links. Broken link building. And I'm not going to go into that right now. We're probably going to do it a little bit down the road, but you can look it up if you're interested. Skyscraper links. We're not going to go into that here either. That's a method developed by Brian Dean at Backlinko. And the same with gustographics. That's a method I like a lot, but we're not going to go into that today. You can read about it on backlinko.com. But the idea generally for what makes a good link is a link that is editorial that you secured from outreach. So editorial just means that a person decided to put your link in one of their pages or posts. That's what editorial means. You didn't do it, somebody else did it. And outreach just means you got it as a result of an email. So good links are editorial links you got from outreach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So when you are reaching out to people to guest post, do you typically, and you may be getting into this, but do you typically give them ideas for what you would want to write about, or do they just like talk about you? Like, can you go into a little bit more detail for me?
Sure. And I'm not going to get into that exactly, so it is a good question. Sure. And it depends on the blog. I'm actually writing a post on this over at Authority Hacker right now. But the general idea is that there's a difference between small blogs and big blogs. Small blogs are run by people who are following their passion. They're probably not making a lot of money from their blog. They are easily flattered, and they get a kick out of people who are really interested in what they're doing, right? For small blogs like that, you want to just try to make friends first. So you might just write them, see how they're doing, compliment them, shoot the breeze, email back and forth with them, have a few laughs, whatever. Then after you're friends, you can make your pitch and just say, hey, this might be a good idea. It could be a win-win for both of us. What do you think? And if you're friends at that point, they're, usually very willing to do it. So that's usually how you approach small blogs. Big blogs, or, even like media sites, something like Mind Body Green or Greatest or, like anything that has a budget, right? You're not going to be talking to someone who's like highly passionate about what they're doing. You're going to be talking to an editor who is being paid to be there. He or she had to wake up that morning, come into the office, and their whole job is to sift through like pitches from people like you. So they don't care. They're interested in one thing, and that's doing their job, and part of their job is to get good content for free. With those people, you don't necessarily want to try to make friends. You want to write a good pitch with excellent ideas, and you want to do it briefly. So the big mistake with big sites is people like write their whole resume and talk about how great they are, why they should be accepted for a guest post or whatever. John Morrow, perhaps one of the world's best guest bloggers. He runs guestblogging.com. He always says that the shorter the better. If you just like list your ideas and say, I've read your guidelines, here are my ideas, what do you think? And then follow up 3 or 4 times, that's usually the best way to approach big sites. So you have to play it by ear. How big is the site? Is it like a personal blog or is it a big media site? And are you going to be talking to somebody who's like salaried, right? So you have to play it by ear, and there are different approaches based on the size of the site.
Cool, that makes sense.
But very good question, and something that I didn't put in here that you can do as you start kicking butt. Okay, so that's a good link. And for the next week or two, we are going to tackle all of these types of links: guest posts, links and resources pages, broken link building, and either skyscraper or guestographics, one or the other. I don't think we'll do both of those. But we're going to tackle these one by one. First one we're going to do is guest posting, mostly because I think it's the easiest, and the tactics are probably going to be the highest conversion, at least to start. We're not going to get more links necessarily because guest posting typically takes more time, because obviously you have to write whole posts to get a link, and there are more efficient ways to build links that don't require writing posts, but the conversion should be higher. So I think it'll be whatever the opposite of demoralizing is. Remoralizing? I don't know.
Sure.
It'll be moralizing. They'll psych you up. And that's important when you start a link building campaign. So I want to break guest posting down into 3 different parts. You know what a guest post is, Colleen?
Yes, I do.
Just writing a post on somebody else's site, right? That's pretty much the definition of guest posting.
Yep. And then you kind of like say who you are and then like link it back to your site, right?
Right. You can do that either in an author bio, which isn't optimal. You want it as much as you can to have your link in the actual article. But so we're going to do 3 different types of guest posts, and we're not going to necessarily try to go do it this week because you have to wrap up content, but we'll be able to get started, I think, and have a list of good contacts or targets by the time you actually go out and start doing it. So here's the first one. It's asking people you know. So many people skip over this because, I don't know, I think people assume they don't know people who have blogs, or it might seem easy, even though it's not necessarily easy. I mean, it is easy, but it doesn't mean it's a bad link, right? It just happens to be a pretty high conversion tactic because people you know are more likely to help you out. So ask people you know. Everybody knows like 5 or 10 people who have a blog, and usually all it takes is just a Facebook message or a Facebook status that says, hey, does anybody have a blog? Who's an active blogger? And if you have more than like 100 Facebook friends, which should be pretty much everybody in 2016, a few people, 5 or 10 hopefully, and maybe even more, should have a blog. And you just ask those people if you can write a guest post for them. And because they're your friends, they're more likely to say yes. The obvious problem here is that almost all these people will have blogs outside of your niche. That might seem like a big problem, but it's really not. The solution is to find the overlap between your market and their market, and then write a guest post for that. So let's assume that we are marketing your cat site, Colleen, and you have a friend that has a hiking blog. You don't have to pass up that opportunity because you're in different markets. You can just write a guest post about how to take your cat on a hike, or like how to...
Maybe in a car ride or something.
Yeah.
Like a road trip.
Right. Or like
yeah.
what kind of carrier you would need to take your cat on a hike, or like how to tell if your cat has a personality that it would like to go on a hike. Those are bad examples, but you could come up with something where those markets overlap, right? Something even better might be like if you have a friend who has a yoga blog, you could write a really good guest post about like what can yogis learn from cats, and it could be about like energy and muscle relaxation and poses, and like those types of things can mesh really well. But asking people you know should get you a very easy first handful of guest posts. And if you're one of those people who doesn't like to link build or doesn't subscribe to the idea that it's important, you can only do this and get a good handful of links. So there are some downsides, of course. These aren't going to be super powerful links most of the time because they're just casual blogs. but they're easy, which is the biggest benefit. So that's one of the things we're going to do is ask people we know. Second, we're going to find major blogs we want links on and then make those relationships happen. That's in quotes because this was one of the pieces of advice from one of the best link builders I know. He's a guy in Chicago named Fahey, and he has pretty much single-handedly built multiple sites up in the DA 50 or 60 range. He's extremely good at building links, and this is his favorite strategy. He loves to guest post, and when I ask him what he likes to do to build links, he's like, I don't try to find a bunch of opportunities. I don't try to find easy opportunities. I try to find the sites that I want links on, the sites that are going to be best for me, and then I just make those relationships happen. So obviously, for the sites that you want links on, you want to like high authority sites, sites with active audiences, sites where if you got a link, you would show it off, where like you would Facebook message Perrin and be like, hey, look at this amazing link I got. Didn't I do a great job? And I can go, yeah, Colleen, leave me alone. I have to work. Aren't you supposed to be working? But you could do it because you got a great link, right? It would be a good excuse. We don't really do that, by the way. Actually, we do kind of.
Actually, I do that all the time during work.
Yeah. We've had some weird conversations for sure. But the idea is to make those relationships happen. What Ryan does, my friend Ryan Fahey, he will look at those sites and try to find like an editor or a marketing person or somebody who looks like a good target, email them, follow up 3 or 4 times. And in some cases, he does try to make friends. He would go against my advice, right? And if he can't get a hold of that person, he just moves to the next person. These are sites that have lots of people working for him, and he just goes down the list until he develops a relationship with somebody from that site. So this takes quite a bit of time, but it works really well. I think the best link I've ever gotten was using this technique, and I think it was like a DA 75 site, very good site. It's probably the biggest site in my niche. I just followed up until I got a response. Felt annoying, but it worked. And I think it maybe took, after that, 10 or 12 emails to negotiate a guest post with the editor. But then I got it. They loved it. Their audience loved it. And it was a great win-win situation. And that one link has done wonders for my blog. It's one of the best links I've ever gotten. And it's worth the time. But it's worth the time because that link has so much power that it's worth, thousands of blog comments or whatever. So tactic 1, ask people you know. Tactic 2, find major blogs you want to be on and then make those relationships happen. And then tactic 3, not 2, is finding prolific guest posters in your market and pursuing the same opportunities. So usually, if you're looking for guest posting opportunities, you'll find a couple people who are writing guest posts, and you can just see what they are, or see where they are guest posting, or you can use the queries below to find those guest posters and see who's taking guest posts actively, even if they don't advertise it on their site. So it would be like keyword guest post by, keyword guest article by, keyword guest author, and you'll start to find sites that are doing guest posts, and then you can maybe even like export these and sort them by domain authority or whatever. But it's a better way to find these opportunities than, say, searching for Write For Us pages or something. So that's the other one. And I think maybe a offshoot of this would be to search Google for author bios and quotes. If you find someone who's doing a lot of guest posting, search Google for their author bio, and you can find pretty much everywhere they've guest posted. Do all those make sense, Colleen? So we have asked people you know, find blogs you want links on and make the relationships happen, and then find prolific guest posters and go after what they're going after.
Yes, sounds like my homework.
Really close, yeah. So this is the homework. 1 is to ask 10 friends with blogs to guest post. If they're your friends, you can manage those relationships very casually, but see if you can line up 10 friends that'll let you write a guest post for them. Number 2 is to find 20 high DA blogs in your market or close, and try to find contact information for someone who seemed like a good contact. Even better, find 2 or 3, because you may not get a response from one person and you'll have to contact somebody else. And then 3, find 1 or 2 prolific guest posters and find 20 good opportunities based on their posts. So the end goal will be to ask 10 friends and then document 40 other guest post targets. And hopefully this will get us 5, 6, 7 good links to start, which should be a really awesome launching point for our link building campaign.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
I'm
Is it
gonna
scary?
I'm going to be running towards the finish line this week. I have this homework and then getting the last of my content up.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty awesome. I'm really surprised that we're this far, this early.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's kind of our strengths. We're both get her done type of people, and I think we've made plenty of mistakes along the way. We've sort of dove in without talking through every detail, but I think it's worked well for us, and I think we're really far along and probably ahead of where I thought we would be. So I think we're doing a good job.
Yay. Yes, at least that's better than our technical call difficulties.
That's
every
right.
week.
Yeah, I know. Do you have any questions? How do you feel about this homework assignment or guest posting in general? Is there anything that's vague or something you're worried about?
No, it makes sense. I'm not sure that I'm going to even have 10 friends that have blogs, so I think that friends may be in quotation marks.
Right.
So friends, if you will.
Right. I think you'd be
up for that
surprised.
challenge.
I mean, everybody has a blog, even if it's like an old Blogspot blog or something.
Yeah.
You should be able to
MySpace
find.
doesn't count, right?
It
Just kidding.
does. If it's
It does? What?
I don't know. Does MySpace have blogs? Is it like TypePad? TypePad's like crazy old. Do you even remember that?
No, I think that was before my
Oh
time,
man,
Perrin.
that's like hardcore.
Yeah.
Old. Yeah. I feel like an old man when I talk about TypePad or like LiveJournal. My word.
I had Zanga.
Oh yeah. So you were in that generation.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, just go find 10 friends with Zengas.
Perfect.
And you're
I'm
done.
on it.
Cool. Well, that's your homework assignment, and I think that covers guest posting. And hopefully next week we can kind of let you walk us through the process of guest posting, and we can do more of a Q&A. Might be a little bit shorter, but you'll have gone out there and at least started prospecting for some link opportunities, and we can spend a little bit more time troubleshooting rather than us just talking at our niche pursuits readers.
Awesome. Thanks, Perrin.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, and then thank you guys, and let us know in the comments if you have any questions. All right, this is Perrin and Colleen signing off.